she stops replying. Yet somehow you feel closer than ever. That confusion you feel right now is not an accident. Listen carefully, because when a woman ignores you in a very specific way, it isn't rejection, it's restraint. Most men panic at silence. They chase, explain, apologize, overperform. But the silence I'm talking about has weight. It has intention. It shows up when attraction is no longer fragile, but dangerous. When a woman feels herself getting pulled too deep, too fast, she doesn't lean in. She pulls back to regain control. Here's the truth men are rarely told. Emotional attraction doesn't grow in constant contact. It grows in tension. When she ignores you but keeps orbiting your world, watching your stories, remembering details, reacting indirectly, she is managing desire, not killing it. She's testing whether you can stand on your own without her attention feeding your identity. Women are deeply sensitive to emotional power. If she feels you're becoming the emotional center too quickly, she'll create distance to see if you collapse or remain grounded. This is not a game, it's an instinctive safety check. A man who panics under distance feels risky. A man who remains calm feels rare. Notice the difference between indifference and restraint. Indifference feels cold, final, disconnected. Restraint feels warm but controlled. She doesn't explain herself. She doesn't argue. She simply slows the flow. And the reason is simple. She's feeling more than she planned to. Attraction becomes frightening when it threatens identity. When she starts imagining you in her routines, her future, her emotional landscape, her nervous system reacts. Ignoring you temporarily gives her space to regulate those emotions. It's how she asks herself, do I want this enough to surrender? Most men ruin this moment by demanding clarity. They ask, what changed? They send paragraphs, they try to negotiate desire. But attraction cannot be negotiated. It can only be allowed to deepen. When you remain steady, unreactive, and self-directed, you communicate strength without words. There's another layer few men see. When a woman ignores you, but doesn't replace you, doesn't flaunt other options, doesn't close the door, she's preserving something. She's protecting the connection from impulsive decisions. Silence becomes a container, not a wall. Think about this. If she truly didn't care, there would be no emotional friction, no pause, no internal debate. The hesitation itself is proof of investment. Desire that means nothing moves fast. Desire that could change her life moves carefully. So if you're being ignored in this way, your job is not to chase or withdraw in bitterness. Your job is to remain anchored, live fully, speak when spoken to. Let her feel the contrast between emotional pressure and emotional safety. That contrast is where trust is born. This is where masculine presence quietly wins, not by force, not by persuasion, but by emotional self-sufficiency. When she senses that her attention is appreciated but not required for your stability, something shifts inside her. Curiosity replaces fear. Respect replaces doubt. And what started as silence begins to turn into longing. Hold this position longer than feels comfortable. Time reveals intention faster than questions ever could. If she returns softly, consistently, and with more presence, you'll know the silence was meaningful. If she fades completely, you lost nothing worth keeping. Either outcome strengthens you because a man who can withstand uncertainty without self-betrayal becomes emotionally unshakable. That awareness is power, and power is what quietly draws her back toward you again. Now, pay attention, because this is where most men completely misread her signals and lose what could have been a deep connection. When a woman ignores you but still finds ways to pop up in your life, that's where the real truth hides. She might like your posts, comment subtly, reply after hours, or even drop small, seemingly casual messages. To the untrained eye, it looks like nothing, or worse, like a tease. But to the man who understands female psychology, every subtle touch point is a breadcrumb. She's signaling interest without losing control. Here's why she does this. Vulnerability terrifies her. Women are often socialized to protect their hearts, to avoid appearing too eager, and to measure emotional investment. When she starts feeling more than she intended, her brain goes into a cautious mode. She will not leap forward recklessly. She will not declare desire in full. Instead, she drops tiny signals into your world, watching for your reaction. If you panic, she hesitates more. If you remain steady, she leans in invisibly. Notice patterns here. She might ignore your texts for hours or even a day, then respond with just enough warmth to remind you she exists. She may comment on your social media in ways that feel like nothing, but they're deliberate. The brain processes these signals subconsciously. She's testing your emotional temperature, your availability without needing you to chase. This is her way of protecting herself while also nurturing the spark. What separates men who get her from men who don't is awareness. You cannot treat her absence as a vacuum to fill with your anxiety. You must recognize her presence in subtle forms as confirmation of interest. It's an invisible conversation happening underneath the surface of words, a silent negotiation of desire and trust. She's giving you the opportunity to show your value without demanding it. A psychological advantage few men even notice. Another layer most men miss is the emotional weight of restraint. When a woman holds herself back, she's actually experiencing a surge of attraction. That tension creates intensity because desire becomes compressed. It's powerful and magnetic precisely because it is measured. If she acted impulsively, the emotional charge would dissipate quickly. By ignoring you strategically, but signaling subtly, she's making you emotionally relevant, making herself emotionally relevant, and drawing both of you into a magnetic orbit that is hard to escape. Here's what you must do. Respond selectively, not obsessively. Acknowledge her signals, but never overinvest. Keep your life rich, full, and independent. She is watching how you handle yourself in the gaps, in the silences, in the spaces where most men crumble. This is where your masculine energy is either proven or lost. If you remain composed, confident, and self-directed, her attraction accelerates without a word. Finally, understand that her ignoring you is not a rejection. It's a filter. She is measuring your stability, your presence, your ability to stay grounded under uncertainty. Most men fail this test because they panic, over-explain, or seek immediate reassurance. If you pass, she begins to lower walls, without even realizing it slowly, subtly, but with increasing intensity. That's when a man notices the silence was never emptiness, it was preparation. By learning to read these quiet signals, by understanding that absence can coexist with intense attraction, you unlock a hidden psychology few men ever see. You stop chasing, you stop guessing, and you step into the space where desire can grow naturally without pressure, without fear, and without losing your power. This is the secret many women hope men will understand, and few ever do. Now, let's go deeper, because this is where the invisible line between attraction and obsession begins to blur, and where most men unknowingly push her away. When a woman ignores you but does certain things, small gestures, lingering glances, inside jokes, playful teasing, she's not just interested. She's emotionally invested even if she hasn't said the words yet. These actions are subconscious. They reveal the pull she feels toward you, often before she allows herself to fully admit it. Understand this. Women's emotions are rarely linear. Attraction doesn't always follow logic. She might ignore your text for hours or days, then drop a message that makes you feel alive, seen, and understood. That inconsistency is not cruelty. It's her internal struggle between desire and caution. She's balancing the thrill of connection with the fear of vulnerability. And if you misread this moment, if you react with frustration or over-eagerness, you risk triggering her protective instincts, and her pull toward you turns into push. Here's the crucial part most men never grasp. Emotional investment shows itself in subtle, repeatable patterns. She may ignore you in conversations, but she remembers tiny details about your life. She asks questions about your world without seeming intrusive. She may laugh at your jokes differently than she does with others, or her tone softens when she addresses you. These aren't random behaviours. They are markers of attachment, evidence that you occupy a unique space in her emotional landscape. Notice the psychology behind it. When a woman is attracted but cautious, she oscillates between closeness and distance. This is her brain's way of testing whether you are dependable, strong, and capable of holding your own under uncertainty. Men misinterpret these cycles as rejection or confusion. They think if she cared, she wouldn't ignore me, but this couldn't be further from the truth. Her distance is not absence. It's the bridge toward deeper desire, a natural mechanism to preserve her autonomy while letting connection build organically. You must resist the urge to fill these gaps with anxiety or validation. Seeking your response or lack of it communicates far more than your words ever could. If you remain composed, if you live fully without being consumed by her silence, you reinforce the unspoken tension. You become the man who is emotionally anchored, the man who does not crumble when she tests the waters. And here's the kicker. Women are unconsciously drawn to men who maintain their centre amidst uncertainty. That magnetic pull is almost impossible to resist. Another point, she may initiate indirect contact. Maybe she shares a song, a meme, or even casually mentions something you like in conversation. These are subtle ways of maintaining connection while keeping her guard up. She's dropping emotional breadcrumbs, seeing if you notice, seeing if you respond without desperation. Every measured response you give strengthens her attraction. Every panicked reaction diminishes it. The stakes are high, but so are the rewards. By learning to read these signals, you stop overanalyzing her silence and start seeing her true intentions. You realize that when she does ignore you, it is rarely disinterest. It's attraction wrapped in self-P protection, a dance of desire that few men know how to navigate. When you hold your ground, when you remain present yet unattached, you step into the rare space where she feels safe enough to let her guard down. This is where genuine emotional intimacy begins, and where the connection moves from curiosity to longing. If you understand this dynamic, you can recognize the moments where her restraint is actually her way of falling deeper for you slowly, strategically, powerfully. It's not about winning a game. It's about aligning with the natural rhythms of attraction and emotional pull. Now, pay close attention, because this is the stage where her subtle signals transform into undeniable signs of emotional surrender. And most men never notice until it's almost too late. When a woman ignores you, but still finds ways to insert herself into your world, to react to your presence, to laugh at things only you would understand, she is falling hard. The mind behind the restraint is beginning to lose control over the heart. What seems like inconsistency is actually her internal tug-of-war between desire and fear. Here's the truth few men see. The more she tries to hold back, the stronger the attraction becomes. When she avoids sending that too eager text or hesitates before making plans, she's building anticipation without even realizing it. Her body, her hormones, and her subconscious are reacting faster than her conscious mind can process. You, the observant man, see this as tension, curiosity, and longing. She's testing the boundaries of emotional proximity and gauging how much you can carry without asking for more than you're willing to give. Subtlety is everything. She may laugh at your jokes just slightly longer than normal, mirror your body language unconsciously, or drop small compliments that seem casual but are layered with meaning. Each gesture carries emotional weight, signaling her attraction while protecting her vulnerability. She's playing a dangerous mental game with herself, and you are the prize that she both fears and craves. Most men mistake this for mixed signals, but this is the signature of a woman who is truly drawn to you, yet learning how to manage the intensity of her feelings. Notice how she uses absence strategically. Ignoring you momentarily isn't punishment. It's a tool to intensify her own emotions. Each pause, each gap in communication allows desire to simmer. Every time she checks on you indirectly, reacts to your energy, or responds with controlled warmth, she is confirming that her emotional magnetism is real. If you overreact, panic, or try to force her hand, you disrupt the rhythm. But if you remain steady, if you allow the tension to exist without interference, you become the anchor in her storm of feelings. Here's the psychological core. Women instinctively assess a man's emotional gravity. Can he withstand her tests? Can he remain grounded without her constant attention? Can he carry his own world without collapsing? These are not conscious questions for her, but her nervous system evaluates them constantly. Your composure signals to her brain that you are rare, stable, and trustworthy. That rarity triggers her desire to pursue, to invest, and ultimately, to emotionally surrender. At this stage, she may increase the subtle touches mentally, emotionally, and even physically without openly declaring it. A hand brush, a lingering glance, a private joke, or a thoughtful message. These are signs she is breaking down her walls piece by piece. Every action reveals a deepening attachment, but she still guards herself against too much vulnerability. If you respect her rhythm, if you maintain your own life fully, her attraction escalates naturally. This is where men often fail. They mistake testing for rejection, distance for disinterest, and restraint for lack of feelings. But the reality is far more powerful. Her calculated silence and intermittent engagement are markers of intensity. She's falling not in the shallow way of fleeting crushes, but in the deep, rare way that transform connection into something meaningful and unforgettable. Understand this. Your job is not to chase or manipulate. Your job is to observe, respond subtly, and remain emotionally anchored. When you do, she cannot help but lean closer, drawn irresistibly toward the man who does not need to prove his worth, but whose presence alone is magnetic, safe, and compelling. This is the final layer, and it's where the invisible thread of her desire becomes almost tangible. When a woman ignores you, but still finds ways to connect, laugh, tease, or check on you indirectly, she is no longer just interested. She is emotionally entangled. Her mind may fight it. Her ego may resist, but her heart has started to pull her toward you. This is not casual attraction. This is the stage where restraint becomes revelation, where subtle gestures become admissions she can't yet speak aloud. The key to recognizing this is pattern recognition. She doesn't reach out for validation. She doesn't seek constant reassurance. Instead, she maintains control while letting glimpses of her feelings shine through. A lingering glance, a playful jab, a song she sends that reminds her of you. These are not accidents, they are subconscious breadcrumbs of emotional surrender. She's falling, but carefully measuring the depth of your stability before fully letting go. Here's the psychology behind it. Women are wired to test emotional safety before vulnerability. Her ignoring you is not rejection, it's calibration. Each act of subtle attention is a signal that she is observing how you respond under uncertainty. If you panic, if you chase, if you demand clarity, she will instinctively retreat. But if you remain grounded, confident, and emotionally self-sufficient, you amplify her desire. You become the man who can hold space for her emotions without being consumed by them. That emotional gravity is irresistible. Notice the contrast between her silence and her presence. When she ignores you, but still reacts to your stories, engages indirectly, or mirrors your energy, she is creating emotional tension, the most magnetic force in human connection. Men often misinterpret this tension as mixed signals or manipulation, but In reality, it's her way of managing the intensity of her feelings while testing your emotional resilience. The stronger you remain in this moment, the deeper her attraction grows. At this stage, the stakes are high. One wrong move can push her back into self-protection, but the right approach creates a feedback loop of desire. She observes your calm, appreciates your independence, and slowly, almost imperceptibly, lowers her walls. Your steady presence becomes a safe harbour for her emotions. And in that safety, her longing intensifies. Here's what most men fail to realise. Attraction that is worth anything never happens in constant reassurance. It happens in tension, in subtlety, in measured presence. She is testing the invisible limits of your masculinity, your emotional intelligence, and your ability to remain anchored. Each silent moment, each indirect signal, each playful tease is an unspoken conversation that most men ignore until it's too late. So, when a woman ignores you, but still does the things you notice, the small touches, the indirect interactions, the emotional breadcrumbs, understand this. She is falling hard. She is drawn to your stability, your presence, and your confidence. And if you respond wisely without panic or neediness, you unlock a depth of desire that few men ever experience. Now, here's something for you to reflect on. Consider your last interaction with her. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much did you maintain your composure versus seek reassurance? Write your answer in the comments below. If this video resonated, hit like, subscribe, and share it with a friend who needs to understand female psychology. This is the knowledge that transforms attraction into magnetic, unshakable connection. Like, subscribe, and share. Comment your number below.